All right, welcome friends and family to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Eric and I am an alcoholic. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street at 8:30 p.m. in Doylestown, PA. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Yes?
I am Dan, I'm an alcoholic.
Dan, welcome.
Tim, alcoholic.
Tim, welcome. Okay. Welcome, everybody. If you have any questions or would like to make this your home group, please see me or any group member after the meeting. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hand. Hey, thank you all for your service. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? All righty. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the big books and CDs, to those who cannot afford them, please put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD Donations. It's right over here. If you would like a CD of any speaker, past or present, see me or Ron after the meeting. Again, they are available free of charge. We always need help, so if you would like to get involved with this meeting and group, please see me or Ron after the meeting. And I've asked Lily to come up and read the preamble.
Hi, my name is Lily. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Lily. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. And I have asked Jim to come up and read the AA 12 Steps of Recovery.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I'm an alcoholic. These are the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all affairs.
We have a 7th tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we have expenses, coffee, cream, donuts, rent, big books, etc. And if you could, please be mindful that the basket makes it all the way across the room. Thank you. Again, there's absolutely no smoking on church property. We've had issues in the past. So if you can, just please take smoking to the nearest sidewalk. Please silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And now I'd like to introduce a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. We have Gina from nearby Levittown.
Hi, my name is Gina, and I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Gina. And I would like to, I'm really nervous. I would, like to tell you that I got here and I'm a first timer, but that's not the case. I'm the girl that would go in and out of rehabs and detoxes for like the oil change. Like I went in there because I was homeless, or, I had to get my weight up a little bit, clear my skin up and stuff like that. And, I just constantly went in and out of it, and I never wanted to admit defeat, and I really, really struggled. I was so determined to find a way to make this work. And so I'll tell you like how it was like, what it was like, and how I got here. My sobriety date is November 30th, 2007. I am born and raised in Philadelphia in a section called Frankfurt. And my parents were married. They divorced when I was about 6 years old. And like I was the kid that went into grade school and told them that my parents divorced because I was a bad kid, right? So then the teacher had to call my mom, and my mom was like, "Really, Gina?" Like, because it was always about me. Like it was always about me. I was always the victim. And I was always in trouble though. So I was also the middle child. I have an older sister and a younger brother. And my sister would do really good in school, and my brother kind of got left behind a little bit because I consumed everybody's life. Only attention I ever got was always negative attention. Like my mom would just say to me, "Could you just not run your mouth? Could you just not?" Like no matter where I was, the teacher said sit down, I had to stand up. Like I was, in first grade, and I just was always in trouble. I was always sitting out in the hallway. My desk was next to the teachers, always something. And then as we got older, I got worse. I was the kid that told my mom that I didn't know what kind of woman she was, that her husband had to leave her. I was 7. My mom said to me, "If you weren't my daughter, I would never want you to be my friend. I wouldn't like you because you're not very nice." And I was nice to the people on the outside of my family, but inside I was vicious. And I was just always angry. So of course I went to therapy because that's what they did. They put me in therapy. And if you made my mom cry, then I became violent because I could make her cry, but you couldn't make her cry. That double standard. My brother and my sister, I went to bed before them so that way I couldn't hurt them while they were sleeping because they were deathly afraid of me. I got kicked out of lunchroom when I was in 5th grade, and my brother had to go home for lunch with me. He was 3 years younger than me, and he would say to my mom, "I can't stay with her. She'll kill me. She'll hurt me." So he went to the neighbor's house, and I stayed home. And me and my sister we started drinking. I started drinking when I was 13 years old. And we hung in these parks down in Philly, and my mom absolutely hated the parks. Like, she would be the lady in the car driving through the park and be like, "Did anybody see my girls?" And me and my sister would be running down the street. And we would go to my dad's house every other weekend. And the one weekend we go, and we went to this movie theater. And my dad said to my sister, "You can't go unless you take Gina with you." And she was so annoyed. She just didn't like it. She was 2 years older than me. And she's always resented me. So we go to the movie theater, and of course everybody has liquor. So I get the bottle of Jack Daniels. So I have to be the cool one and drink it. The only thing that I learned is that I went home with one shoe and I threw up all over my dad's feet. And then I just learned that I can't drink Jack Daniels. That's what I learned, right? I just whipped it and thought, Jack Daniels is not my thing, so I'll just try something else. And my sister, she was punished for letting me drink because she was older than me. So then she really hated me. Like, she really hated me. But I used to think when I would go to school, like in 8th grade, that it was normal that everybody decided on what they were going to drink on Friday. Like, I thought everybody did that. So we would collect our little bit of chore money that you did. You had to clean the bathroom, get some chores. So that was like our plot. And on Friday nights, I figured out what I was going to drink, and we'd be in the cemetery, like jungle juice parties or whatever. And I try to find my friends because I always had a curfew. I try to find the friends who didn't really have a curfew to get my mom to let me sleep at their house. And then you do the thing where you get your friend to act like they're your mom, stuff like the mom and stuff. So my mom was just like, no matter what, she just couldn't figure out what was the matter with me. She used to say to me, "There's something the matter with you. You're always in trouble. And when you go out, I can't ever get you home. Like, I could never get home." So I decided to hang out. I was like 14, I guess, and I was starting high school. By like the skin of my teeth, I got out. I think they got me out of 8th grade because they just wanted me out of their school because I was always in trouble. They were like, "She has to go." And so I started high school, and I find a boyfriend. I get this boyfriend who's like 19 or 20, and I just turned 14 years old. So my mother and father are ready to have a heart attack. But they also know that if they tell me I can't do it, then I'm going to find a way to do it. So my mom just says, "All right, we'll let this ride and see how it goes." And, we drank together. he drank a lot more than me, but he drank together. But he could get in the bar and I couldn't. So like he would supposed to be meeting me, and I would be standing at the corner waiting for him to meet me. And when he didn't show up, I would go to the bar, and I was the girl, like the little young girl that went into the bar and would sucker punch him off the bar stool and take his money, like, I'm out of here. And later on that night, the consequences would come. And like that relationship that I stayed in for 4 years was really, really abusive. And, because of, looking back in hindsight, because of my low self-esteem, and he was my first love, and who was I, and what would I be without him, like all these different things, I didn't know how to walk away from it, so I just stayed in it. And my self-esteem would like plummeted. Like I knew that if anybody talked to me at a party, everybody was older than me, so if anybody talked to me, I knew I was in trouble by the end of it, because I knew there was consequences once he got really drunk, that I was getting a whooping at the end of the night. And and I just stayed in it because I just thought that was normal. That's what normal relationships were, and I didn't know any different. And so I graduate high school, and I decide that I find this group of friends that hang on this corner right outside of his house, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave him, and I'm going to hang out with these people. And mind you, these were the people that a lot of them didn't even graduate from 8th grade, and do it. Like they were out stealing all day long. They drove around, like they had quads. They were always doing something, and I thought they had the best life ever. Like I thought I graduated high school to do absolutely nothing. Like, like my mom's like, you're getting a job, and I was like, who does that? I'm not doing that. I'm not going to school. I'm not doing any of them things. And so I did. I decided to hang on the corner and drink 40s. Hustle change and drink 40s. I think for a little bit, like I would steal boxers out of Woolworths, right, and hustle boxers, like underwear. Like I stole stuff, and I would pay for my drinking. And so we would hang out on the corners and drink. And eventually, it just turned into that I would drink and be in places that I shouldn't be in. And I was 18 years old, and I woke up with this lady cop ripping me out of a car, and this man screaming at me, telling me that I stole his car. And I was so drunk that I was like I have a case of Colt 45 underneath my feet, like I can't even walk. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know how to drive. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And here are the people I was with, they were robbing cars. So I get arrested, and I wake up in the roundhouse in Philly, and I got this bracelet on that says my name and it says theft. And I thought, I got nothing. I don't even know what I stole. And I went in front of a judge, and he read all these charges off. And I remember just standing there dumbfounded, thinking I had 4 different people pressing charges against me, and 15 to 20 charges. I had simple assault, aggravated assault. I slept the whole entire time in a car. I just had no idea. But my sick ego said, now that I'm really cool, because I got arrested with the boys, because that's what my head tells me. So my mom came and got me, and it was New Year's Eve, and my younger brother and his friends came to my house, and they brought Mad Dog 2020 and everything else, and they celebrated New Year's Eve with me, because my mom said, you can't go out. God forbid if you go out, you'll be back in jail again. So I stayed home, and I drank at home. 2 weeks later, I was in Montgomery County, and I got arrested again for retail theft for stealing laptop computers. And my mom just said to me, what is the matter with you? And I was like, I don't know. I thought it was cool. I had a friend, and we did a checklist, and we went to York, Pennsylvania, just to steal and rob from Silo, all these places all day long. And I just thought it was normal. Normal people did that. And I made money. I had nice clothes because we stole everything. And so, of course, I do what any good alcoholic and drug addict does. I go to rehab because the judge will really, really appreciate that. So that's what I did. So I'm 18 years old, and I go to my first rehab, and I pay no attention. I don't pay attention to anything. I'm just there. My counselor is a nun. She doesn't like me, and I don't like her. We're not getting along. And she just keeps saying, why don't you tell everybody what's going on with you? And I'm just like, whatever. And then I finally tell them, I have all these criminal cases, and I'm looking at her thinking, so do they? What's the difference? We're all alike, And she made my mom come in for a family session, and she made my mom cry. I became violent. That's how that went. It didn't go well. And I remember them talking about the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And they were written everywhere. But how about I just kept thinking there was 12 steps to get to this lecture hall. I didn't understand. And I would count them and be like, there is not 12 here. I don't know what they're talking about. I paid no mind to it. And we always had to watch Father Martin, the tapes. And I would just sit there, like my eyes would cross because I couldn't stay awake that long, and I think, oh God, if this is AA, I'd rather die. Like, I just didn't get it. I didn't. And my sick head said, I'm 18 years old. How are you going to tell me I can never drink again? It's not possible. It's not. And then I convinced my mom, because they were like, we're going to send her to a recovery house in Reading. And I said to my mom, I don't even know where Reading is. We're not going to Reading. I don't know anything about it. And I said to her, this is a phase. You know, I'm 18. This is a phase. It's all going to pass. All the kids are doing it. You know what I mean? And she didn't know any better. She just kind of was thinking that she didn't know what to do with me. So she said, fine. And she brought me home. And I think I went to like the IOP thing. And I remember being there with a bunch of adults thinking, oh, what do you do? And I remember they told me to go to the nearest park and fly a kite. And I was like, who does that? Like, why would I fly a kite? Like, am I supposed to do that every day? Like, I didn't understand. I was like, there's nothing for me to do. You have me sitting here and I'm with all of these people who are married with children and their kids are the same age as me, and you want me to fly kites? No, people really think I'm drinking then. Like, I'm not flying kites. So I didn't last long. I was lonely. My friends were all still drinking, and I just thought that I could control it. And like, I know this is Alcoholics Anonymous, but my drinking would be, I would do other things so that way I could drink longer. You know, I became a garbage head. Anything you had, I did. My dad would come down to the corners. They would pull me off the corner. He would go to court with me. My dad took me to court, and I had to have a lineup for one of my cases. And this man walks out and shakes my dad's hand. I looked at my dad. He looked at me. And I said, that's the man for the lineup. He said, that's great, because I play darts with him. Always ready to embarrass the family, Gina. And I was like, that's what I do. I was like, I know him. Yeah, that's the guy pressing charges against me. And so, I go to court, and, I get sentenced and everything. And then I go to Montgomery County, and I get sentenced for that. And lo and behold, I do what I do. I get sentenced in Montgomery County, and 15 days later, I'm rearrested in Philadelphia for more felonies, right? For stealing a car, I give an alias name. Like, I'm so whacked out of my mind, and I don't even know what name I gave. Like, I was like, I had to make sure I read my bracelet. And my mom was just thinking to herself, like, here we go. And, I got put on house arrest for 13 months. For both counties, and the only thing I could do was drink, because I knew I'd pass the urine. You know what I mean? Like, I could drink, but I would be so intoxicated sometimes when my PO would call in that my mom would be like, oh, she's in the shower, because she couldn't wake me up, because I couldn't get up. Like, they gave me I was let out from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and in 2 to 5 o'clock I was totally intoxicated. I had to crawl up my back steps. Like I made sure that I drank the whole entire time I was allowed to leave that house. And my mom was just like, you're playing with fire, and eventually, everything got situated. I got put on probation, and I got a job, my first job ever. I worked with mentally handicapped adults. I absolutely loved it. It was great. It was great for me. It gave me a sense of worth, right? But of course, I work with people who drink just like me. The normal, like, not the normies, but there was other people that worked there, and so we would go out drinking. And eventually, I started calling out late, to get to work and stuff like that. But the one time we were all out drinking, and I went to go home, and I went to crawl up my back steps to my house, and I'm like so drunk, and I'm crawling up the steps, and there was my mom. She looks at me and says, "You're not coming here." And she shut the door and locked it. And I was like, "It's a joke, right? Like, you're going to let me in?" She was like, "No, not at all." And lo and behold, she kicked me out. And so I found a couple friends' houses to stay at. And then me and my girlfriend, we got an apartment. I was 20 years old. I had a couple friends that, I had a friend of mine that committed suicide. So everything was like getting a little bit rough. Like, our drinking was getting bad. There was nobody, like, she was supposed to have her kid there, but she wasn't there yet. So me and her just drank. It was on Hegerman Street, so we called it the Hegerman Zoo. Like, it was so insane. People just came and went from, it was like Laverne and Shirley. Like, you could see people, we were in the basement of the apartment. People just knocked on our windows and like climbed in them. Like, it was just nuts. It was really bad. And, so we get this apartment, and I know my job's on the line because I just can't seem to get there, and I'm doing all these other things, and so I go to rehab, and I'm in rehab, and I'm not sure what I want to do, or I'm not really buying into it. I just know that I'm sad and depressed, and if I could not do A, right, then I could just drink and not do anything else. My life would be a little bit better. It was all the other stuff I kept doing, right? So next thing I get there, and I get released, and I go home, and I turn 21. So my brother, who was 18 at the time, they throw this big keg party for me and everything, and of course I have to drink. It's my 21st birthday. Why wouldn't I? And I start drinking again, and I got it. I was just like, I still had my job, so everything was still kind of, I was doing pretty well. And in August, 2 months after my 21st birthday, my younger brother committed suicide from this disease. And my family told me that if I didn't bring my lifestyle into their household, and if I wasn't who I was, that maybe this would have never happened. So, I'm always full of selfish, I'm selfish and self-centered. So I become the victim of my brother's suicide. And I don't know this until, I get sober and I can look back on it. But at the moment, I just thought, God took the wrong child, it should have been me, and I'm not worth anything, and I don't deserve to even breathe. So it just destroyed me. The thought of not being able to talk to him or deal with him took my breath away, where I couldn't breathe one sober breath. I just couldn't do it. It just hurt so bad. And I didn't go to my mom's house for about a year, and I drank. My family, after the funeral, everybody had a gathering at my mom's house. I went to a keg party in the park because I couldn't. I couldn't face my family. I was ashamed, and I just thought everybody was going to say this is your fault because you are who you are. And so I ran from it, because that's what I know how to do, is run away from feelings and emotions. So I ran away from it, and I quit my job. I get another job. With all the men issues I have, it works out well that I work in a warehouse full of men from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 9 o'clock at night. And so whenever I was out drinking at nighttime, if I needed a ride to work, I just called one of the men, and they always came and got me, right? And so I did that until eventually, I stopped showing up for work. I couldn't get there anymore. I just kept drinking. I did a geographical change. Me and my boyfriend at the time, we decided to move to Florida, and he's doing other substances that I don't really know much about. So we think it'll be great to go to Florida with a couple of his friends and their family. So we do, and I get a job there, and I'm doing pretty well. And I get introduced to some opiates, some oxys or whatever. And thank God I didn't know what withdrawal was. I thought I had the flu, and I let that ride out, and I was done. But I still drank. I still drank and did what I needed to do. But I still showed up for work. And I got pregnant, and I called my mom, and I said, well, I'm going to come home because our relationship wasn't working. And I didn't tell her I was pregnant, because she was like, you ain't coming here. So I go home, and I show up at my mom's house 4.5 months pregnant. I don't tell her till I'm about 5.5 months pregnant that I'm pregnant. And I leave the boyfriend in Florida. And I did good. I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I did nothing during my first pregnancy. I went from 105 pounds to 150 pounds. I was doing pretty good. I was happy. I was like, this is it. I'm going to have this baby, and life is going to be grand. Dude, I had this baby, and 2 weeks later, my mom was like, you can go out with your friends. That first night that I went out with my friends, I went out and drank and other things, came home at 5 o'clock in the morning, heated up a bottle, crept up my steps, put it next to me, so when the baby woke up, I plugged him and halfway fell asleep on him. You know what I mean? And I kept thinking, all right, tomorrow will be better. We won't drink as much. Then I got to go out Friday and Saturday night. Then it was Thursday, Friday, because Thursday I had to go out, right? So it was Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and then it was Wednesday. All of a sudden it just became, but I was going to school, my son was going to daycare. My sick head told me that we can function, we can do this. I go to a technical school, and I find girls in that school that live near me. They're single moms, they have their own houses, no mom there, and they drink just like me. It was the gates of heaven opened up. It was ching, there we go. So me and my kid became gypsies. That's what we did. We went from one person's house. When people noticed my drinking and how much I was neglecting my kid, we just moved to another house. That's what I did all the time. And there would always be a boyfriend in the mix of it. Somebody would always get stuck with my kid, my family, my mom, somebody else, so that way I could run away and go drink with the guy all day long. And and that just kept going and going. And I meet my youngest son's father. I have 2 boys, so I meet my youngest son's father. Very conveniently, he owns a billiard club, which has a bar in the back of it, which I get to waitress, and then I get to manage the bar, so that was even better. I did the liquor order, so that was really good, because I got to order extra liquor for me. Then they bought us a house. I drove a Mercedes. I thought my life was amazing, because I had all this money. I got an opiate habit. I'm eating too many perks, and I get to do the liquor order. So I'd order liquor for the bar, liquor for my house, and I have this little boy who's about 2-3 years old, and there's nothing for him to eat in that refrigerator. And he knows that if I don't get my medicine, that I'm not going to be nice. So he says, if you get your medicine, will you be nice? And I'd say, if you get in the car, I'll be even nicer. And he'll say, okay. And he gets in the car, and he meets all these different people, you know, so I can get my medicine. And for him, you know, call them uncle. Everybody was an uncle, you know. And like that continued. And like at the moment, I kept thinking that I was a really good mom. You know what I mean? Like I didn't see it. I didn't pay no mind to it. And I got pregnant with my youngest son, and you know, I got put on another program, and I thought that was going to be the cure-all, end-all, and that I was going to be a really, really good mom. And with my youngest son, I didn't get a breath of sobriety. Like, I couldn't get anything. I couldn't stop drinking. I couldn't stop doing anything. And it just got worse. I didn't want the baby. I didn't want to be in the relationship. It was extremely abusive. I got this 4-year-old who is just neglected, you know, by both of us. He's abused and verbally, emotionally, and physically. And I don't say that to be proud. I say that because that's what happens to me when I put a drink or a drug in me. That's what kind of mom I become. And I didn't look back at it. I just kept dragging him through it. And he loved me so much. He was 4. He doesn't know any better, you know. And so I have this little baby, and I was 7.5 months pregnant, and he is 4 pounds, 2.5 ounces, and he's in the NICU for 3 months. And I stayed under the radar from DHS, and I brought him home, and I had them for a month, and they showed up at my house with 2 car seats for medical neglect against my youngest son and said, we are coming to take your children. And part of me went, and then a part of me was really resentful, because I thought, how come my son's father gets to stay and I don't, right? And so I called their grandparents, and they went to 2 different locations, 2 different houses. One was 3 months old, and one was 4. And I went to rehab. And I go to rehab, and it's at 52nd and Market. And I was the only chick down there that didn't have track marks, so I think I was a really hot commodity at the time. I think I was really cute. I was like, still had some weight on me, and I was doing really good. And so, of course, I do what any good alcoholic does. I find something to take me out of me, and I find the love of my life in rehab. And you couldn't tell me anything different about him. So, you know, I get discharged out of rehab, and, you know, I go to my mom's house, and then he calls. It was like that moment he called, what are you doing? No, what are you doing, right? So now we're going to hang out. And so I do. I like lie to my kids' fathers. You know what I mean? I'm supposed to have visitation with my kids. I'm not. I'm meeting the boy all the time. I'm going to meet the boy. And we're trying to stay sober because we're going to live happily ever after, because that's what my sick head says. I'll just have different I'll have more babies. They can have them. I'll just have new ones. You know, like I'm nuts. And he introduces me to this lovely little place called Kensington Ave down in Philly. And he introduced me, and I started smoking crack. And I still drank. People didn't really appreciate when you smoke crack in a bar, so it was kind of a little bit inconvenient. So I kind of stopped drinking in the bar. I kind of just hung out and drank outside. And, you know, family court said, you're going to go back to court, you know, you're going to go back to rehab again before you die. Like, you have to go do something. And like, I was mad, full of resentment and hate and everything else. And I did. I went back to treatment, and I went there because family court said I had to go there. I didn't go there because I thought at any time, I would have told you that I was fine, that you know what I mean, I didn't need any of this stuff. And I remember sitting there, and I remember, like, you know, disqualifying myself in rehab. I wasn't like any of these people. Just because, like, I needed lots of substances and I did all these different things, I still lived at my mom's house. Like, I kind of could still have my kids if I wanted to, but I really wasn't that bad. So I wasn't like you. My life was not like yours. And so I disqualified myself. I sat in the back of the room, my arms crossed, and thought, whatever, I'm only here to do my time, you know, and that was it. And this lady, she talked about being homeless and all this stuff. And I remember sitting in the back of the room thinking, oh, whatever, that's your crap, not mine. I don't really care. And so I get kicked out of rehab, because that's what I do. I get kicked out of rehab, and I had 2 days left, and I get kicked out. And I show up at my mom's house, and I call her, and I tell her I'm kicked out of rehab, and she said, you're not coming here. I'm like, what do you mean? And I have all my bags of clothes, and she already changed the locks on the house. She said, you're not welcome in my home. You're not coming here. And I just sat there, and I didn't know what to do. So I go and call my youngest son's father, and I left all my clothes there, and I went to Kensington Avenue to find the boy, which I didn't find him. I just found other things for me to do. And So within 24 hours, that woman who I disqualified myself, her story became my story. So I stayed homeless on Kensington Avenue down in Philadelphia for 4 years. And I would have told you that my life was grand, that I had no responsibility, that it was all about me, and this is what I chose to do, right? Because that's how sick I was. And so I start doing all these different things when I'm down there. And anyway, I get really sick one day. And my youngest son's father used to come down there to do his thing, and he would go back home. I just didn't know how to leave. Once I started with anything, I couldn't leave that area. I had to stay. So I lived in this really pretty abandoned house that I decorated and everything. It was mine. And it was me and the boys that we were going to live there forever. And so I got really sick this one day, and I can't walk anymore. I can't even get down to the avenue. I can't do anything. And I stay in the house. It's about 6 or 7 days, and I'm really struggling to walk. Like, they used to pick me up just to help me go to the bathroom and lay me back in a bed, and I couldn't move my arm anymore. And like, I couldn't even. I would try to breathe, and I would go unconscious in the middle of a conversation. Like, I just couldn't function. And so my youngest son's father came down, and he said, "You really, really need to go to the hospital." And my disease said, "No, we don't. No, because then my run's over." So the ambulance, wasn't coming to my pretty abandoned house. They said no, so they had to come get me from the corner. So they carried me to the corner, and they took me to this hospital. And the hospital said to me, "You probably have the flu." "Yeah, probably not," I said. And she left me in a room, and she put me like in, because I was just an alcoholic junkie, right? Like, I'm just in their way. They don't really care about me. So they put me in this suture room, and they hooked me up to this IV, and my son's father and my boyfriend, because now I become like a Jerry Springer show, because I have the boyfriend and the kid's father. You know what I mean? Like, it's just all nuts. And they're just trying to bring other things in, put them in my IV to get me well. And I'm yelling at them, telling them it's not good stuff because I'm not better. Like, just craziness. And they're banging on the door, the doctors, and be like, "You better not be giving her anything." Like, it was a whole zoo. So they really hated me even more in the hospital. But, and I went to call my mom, and she hung up on me. So my youngest son's father calls my mom up and says, "Gina's in the hospital." Now, mind you, I already had pneumonia 2 other times before that. So my mom was like done with me. All the rehabs, all my crap. And so my mom says, "Yeah, I don't really care. Don't have her call. Don't call me. I don't care." So I don't know, but I just remember being in one hospital, and then I woke up in another hospital. But here it was 2.5 weeks later, I woke up in another hospital. I just know that they called my mom and told my mom that I would probably die within 72 hours, that I had this infection called endocarditis, which was a heart infection, and I had 3 different types of pneumonia, and that all my organs were shutting down, and that I was dying, and that they needed to prepare my funeral and figure out what they were going to do, and that if this medication they were going to give me didn't work, then it was a done deal. And my mom and them were just trying to figure out how they were going to tell my 5-year-old little boy that I died and I was never coming home. And I remember like going in and out of consciousness, like seeing my mom and my dad and like all my family members crying. And then I had certain friends that would come in, and I would open my eyes, and I remember saying, "Do you got anything?" And my mom would be so devastated. And I didn't understand why they were so upset by this. Like, I just didn't understand it. And so I stayed in this hospital for 4.5 months. I was supposed to be on oxygen for the rest of my life. I had surgery on my leg. I went from a wheelchair to a walker to a cane. I had to do therapy. I had to learn how to feed myself and dress myself. And they put me on a maintenance program and sent me to a rehab for 7 days, and then shipped me off to Bensalem, Pennsylvania with my dad's house. And my dad just was like yelling because he didn't know what I was supposed to do. And I'm on the hotline for AA every day. "I don't know where the meeting is," and he just won't stop screaming. Like, the poor guy, thank God for the hotline, right? I'm telling you, because they had to calm me down like every 10 minutes. I called them so many times that I swear to God they knew me by name. And like, they would help me find a meeting, and then they would explain to me that my dad didn't have to understand. Like, he didn't have to. He doesn't get you. You know what I mean? Like, this is your responsibility. This is what you're going to do. And I was just thinking, like, can you come get me? Like, where are you? Can I live with you? And so my dad, like, God bless him, man. Like, he would drive me to meetings, and he would sit in a car and read a book, because I didn't drive. He would read for the hour that I was in the meeting. If it was an hour and a half meeting, he stayed. Like, he just stayed because they were too far, you know what I mean? And he stayed with me, and he would bring me back home, and that was his night every night. And I had to go every day to IOP in Philly off of Girard Avenue, and the one day I decided that I'm not going home. I'm going to go and do what I want to do, and I'm going to drink one more time, amongst other things. And I went up in the hospital because my heart swelled, and I was unconscious for 3 days. And the doctor said to me, "Are you trying to kill yourself?" And I just said to them, "No, I'm just trying to get one more. I don't really understand the problem." Like, I didn't understand. And they said to me, "Gina, your heart is not good. You have damaged your valves. And if you continue to drink and drug how you do, you're going to die." And I said, "You don't know me. You can't tell me nothing." Because that's what my sick head said, right? So, mind you, I'm like 90 pounds, thinking I was really cute, but I wasn't. I was like 90 pounds. I'm a hot mess. And I tell my dad that I'm going to change it and I'm going to do something different. And that's not what happens. What happens is that I say to I go to the IOP one day and I don't go back. And I'm not going back. I'm not going to IOP. I walk away from all that, and I'm hiding in Somerset and Kensington somewhere because my dad is looking for me. And I won't go because he's going to take me from the love of my life, which is drugs and alcohol, and I can't have him do that. And so every day people would say, "Your dad's down on the avenue," and I'd say, "He still is." And I would leave that man down there, like not thinking of the bad things that could have happened to him. Like, I think God carried him too, you know what I mean, and protected him, because I didn't really care what was happening to anybody. I just knew that I needed my best friend, and you couldn't take it from me. And I didn't know how to function without it. I was lonely. I was sad. I didn't fit in. My sick head told me, how would the drug and alcohol world function without me if I wasn't a part of it? Like, I was so insane. And so I did. I go on this run, and now I'm really, really cute because, like, I'm probably up for 2.5 weeks. So, like, I'm already a rocker and a swayer, as you can see now. So just imagine how cute it was when I'm up for a really long time. Now, mind you, I'm 70 pounds, and I'm a picker, so I'm picked everywhere. Like, it's just really bad, and I can't really stay awake and have a conversation with anybody, so I kind of am the girl that walks down the street, trips over her own feet because she fell asleep, and I got to get back up again. Like, that's me. I am the video that you see on Facebook of the girl that's walking into stuff and slobbering on herself. That would be me. That's who I am when I put a drink or a drug in me. And so I do. I'm about 70 pounds. I get some money, and we go up all the way up on this block, and I'm really shot out, and I'm really bad. And there's like this playground, and there's like a fence you can climb out of, and a little ledge you walk on. Well, somebody bangs into me, and I fall 20 feet. And there's an abandoned car and a patch of grass and concrete, and I land on the grass. My wrist is totally snapped. The wind's knocked out of me, but I have my thing of alcohol in my mouth, and I'm like, "Can somebody pick me up?" Like, somebody pick me up. And they're like, "Dude, we need to call an ambulance." And I was like, "No, we don't. It'll be fine. It's fine." And my head said, "My run can't be over. Like, this cannot be the end of it." So I refused for anybody to call an ambulance. And so my back hurt so bad. I got the wind knocked out of me. I knew my wrist was broken. My mouth is bleeding. And I still continue on my journey. And I baby step all the way down this street, like 5 blocks. And I finally sit on a step, and I stay out all night long drinking until the next morning when the kid that's with me looks at me. We both open our eyes after we pass out, and I said to him, "I can't feel my legs and I can't get up." And he said, "All right." So he went and called 911. The ambulance came for me, and they said, "What time did you fall?" And I said, "I don't know, sometime yesterday." And I tell her, and she said, "So we're really glad that you fell 20 feet and you have broken your back and you have broken your wrist and you refuse for anybody to call an ambulance." And I was like, "Pretty much, that's how it went." So they take me to the hospital, and they bring me in the room. And the only thing I told them not to do was take my shoes off because they weren't off for a really long time. And if you ever smelt somebody's feet that their shoes have been on for a long time, it wasn't really pretty. So that was my biggest fight with them, was about my shoes, taking them off. And so they did. They put my arm in a cast, and they ran me in for emergency surgery. And they put cadaver bones in my spine and a titanium steel cage. And they told me that the only reason I wasn't paralyzed is because I was 70 pounds. And I was mad. I was mad that I was there. I was mad that it was an inconvenience that that I wasn't done my run. And my family was totally devastated. Like, I woke up with court papers. My mom took custody of my my oldest son from me. She told the judge that I was going to die and that there was nothing they could do for me. And, I did. I went through therapy. I went to another rehab because that's what I do. I go to rehab. And like this time, I sat in rehab and I thought, this is it. I got this back brace on. I got a broken wrist. I was almost paralyzed. Like, we need to get it together. We're going to surrender. We're going to do what we need to do. Lo and behold, that I don't have a defense. One person says, do you want to go drink? And I'm like, absolutely. And I get out of another rehab, right? And I get so mad at myself because I think, how did I get here again? How did this happen? But how does it happen? Because I don't have anything. Like, there's no work being done, right? So I go to my first recovery house, which was in Kensington, and which was fine. I was fine, but I went from 70 pounds to 140 pounds. I didn't really have a sponsor. I just had one by name. I didn't really do the AA thing because you talked about God, and I really didn't want no parts of that, so I kind of went to other fellowships. But I don't know, my ass got fatter and I just learned how to manipulate a lot of men. I waitressed, I collected welfare. And like I would have told you that I was never drinking again, that I had this, right? I got this under control. I have men issues out the wazoo, like life is just out of control. And I stay in a recovery house for 9 months, do no work. And the next thing you know, like I move out with my friends and I have a 3-bedroom house. And I'm 7 blocks away, stuck in an abandoned house, and I can't get out of it. And I just think, how did I get here? How did I get here? Because I didn't do any work, right? I didn't do anything. So I call my mom on the phone, and I tell my mom that I'm going to die from this disease. And she tells me to put my phone number and my name in my pocket, so when they find my body, that I can be identified. And I think it's a brilliant idea. So she cries. I think it was great. And so I tell her, like, tell my children that I love them, that I can't, my fight is over. Like, and I just was totally defeated, and acceptance kicked in. Like, acceptance of the fact that this is how I was going to die and this was what's going to happen to me. And I did. I stayed out for another year. Like, I would go to jail for 30 days, call my mom up. They knew that they were like, yeah, whatever. As soon as I got my tokens, I was right back to where I came from. And like, then I would get pneumonia, be in the hospital for 3 days, get back, constantly in and out. And like, I don't know what happened. Like, one day I was standing on the corner and I thought I had pneumonia again, and I didn't feel good. And like, now I'm to the point where I'm so nuts that I was raised Catholic, so now I'm like singing, I'm like rocking and swaying, singing church hymns that I knew from when I was a kid, right? Like, I don't even know. People are like, what is the matter with you? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I was just so out there. And so the cops were like raiding everything, and and I had a warrant, and I just thought, man, I'm not going back to jail. I don't feel good. And I just remember saying to a couple of my friends, I'm going to walk up to the hospital. And they were like, dude, whatever, we'll see you in a couple of days. Because that was my home away from home. I was always in a hospital. And so I did. I walked up the hill, and I was walking up this hill to go to this hospital. And I remember thinking to myself, that I never asked God for anything, because like, being raised Catholic, it was always like a punishing God, and you had to do and all this other craziness, and I was just like, yeah, whatever, I'm not doing all that. He's never going to love me or like me anyway, because I don't do anything for anybody except myself. And so I remember just shooting out this like little prayer, like this little thing or whatever, and I said, God, I don't know if you can hear me, but I just really need you to get me up this hill. I really need you to get me up to it. Like, don't let anybody call my name. Don't let a car pull over. Like, just get me up this hill. I just need to get there. And he did. I got to the hospital, and they examined me, and the lady goes to hand me a prescription and says, here's your script for antibiotics, and you're free to go home. And I remember for the first time ever that I just put my head down, and I just looked at her and just said to her, I don't have a home, and I haven't had one in 4 years, and I don't have anywhere to go, and if you let me go, I'm going to die, and I really need you to help me save my life. So can I please go to the crisis center? And she said, absolutely. And they put me upstairs, and I sat in the crisis center for like 24 hours, and I was really sick, and my insurance said, you're going to get some comfort meds, we're going to send you to no fancy rehab. And I was like, I don't care, dude, send me wherever you need to. And they did. I went to a detox, and it was for 5 days, and every time I threw up, they gave me herbal tea. It was horrible. I will never drink herbal tea again in my whole life. But I got some comfort meds, and when it was time for me to go, they were like, okay, where are you going? your 5 days is up. Where are you going? My insurance said, she's been in 9 rehabs. We are not paying for her no more. We are done. So they said, where are you going? And I said, I don't know. I don't have anywhere to go. And I had no money for a recovery house. I knew nobody was going to take me. And so I called my mom. And she just moved from Philadelphia to Bucks County with my oldest son for school purposes. And I said to her, can I come with you? And she said, oh, you can come with me until you get enough money for a recovery house. But you need to do what you need to do. Like, I'm not doing this with you. But if you don't do this right, you'll never see this little boy again. We're done. This is not fair to him. He is 8 years old. You know what I mean? And I said, okay. So I did. I went to her house, and every morning she dropped me off in Philadelphia at 7 o'clock in the morning. Oh, my God, I didn't even know what to do with myself. So, I found things to do. I went to parenting classes. I went to one-on-one therapy. I did IOP 3 days a week. I went to every doctor's appointment known to man. Like, I was at the foot doctor. Like, any place, anything my insurance covered, I went to that doctor. Because I needed to do something with my time. I had no idea. I had one friend who was in Alcoholics Anonymous, and he had 2.5 years sober, and he used to come down the avenue and feed me. And I called him on the phone, and I said, listen, like, this is what's happening, this is where I am, and I really need your help. And he said, I got you. And he introduced me to some women. And I remember this woman said to me, do you have a sponsor? And I said, no. And she said, all right, well, you do now. And I said to her, oh, cool, that's great. This is going to work out fine. And she said, so she calls me and says, we're going to meet up. We're going to do some work. And I said, what work? She said, well, I'm going to take you through 12 steps to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I said, 12 just seems like a really big number. It's just a little bit too much for me. And I was overwhelmed by 12. Like, anything that's more than 3, I'm overwhelmed with, right? So she said to me, we're going to make it simple. We're going to give you 3 steps. You're going to get with God, clean house, and help others. And my sick head thought, that's really simple. I can do that, right? And I did. Like, I met her, and I could not grasp the word powerlessness. And this is my experience, I just couldn't get it. I kept thinking I was a survivor. I wasn't powerless over anything. To me, it would be like admitting defeat, and I just couldn't do it. So in the beginning, she said, how about you surrender to the fact that when you put one of something in you, your life is totally unmanageable. And I tried to argue the unmanageability, and she said, people don't normally become homeless and wash their hair in a fire hydrant and eat out of the trash can. You know what I mean? That's what you do, Gina. And I was like, all right, point taken. It took me a second to catch on to that. So, so I got it. You know what I mean? And restore me to sanity. Listen, I would have never walked off that avenue. I love to drink. That's what I loved how it made me feel. I loved everything about it. I just hated the consequences, right? So I just knew if it was anything to do with me, I'd have still been stuck down there. I'd have died there. So I knew that there was a power greater than me, than something, had to help me. And I'm not going to get into every single step, but I know that the 3rd step I got stuck with, because when it said, made a decision to turn my will and my life over, the will part, I kept thinking, I'm a visual learner. I can't see it. I can't touch it. I don't understand it. It don't make no sense. This is stupid. That's what I do. I just shut everything off. And, a friend of mine said, did you ever hear the footprints prayer? And I said, I did. And he said, if you could close your eyes and picture anything that you wanted to be a higher power, what would it be? So I did. I closed my eyes and I pictured, what my higher power would look like to me. And he said, all right, all day long, every single day, if that higher power was walking next to you and you had a decision to make and you weren't sure what to do, but you already know right from wrong, selfish and unselfish, you know what I mean? Comfortable and uncomfortable. If you asked your higher power, which one should you do, what would he tell you? And I was like, right? I get it. So I was now mind you, I'm sober and crazy on the L and on the bus, dude, I don't know what we're going to do. There's nobody with me. I talk to God all day long. You know what I mean? And I think people think that I'm crazy, but I don't care that they think I'm crazy, because at the end of the day, when I stayed sober, I was like, all right, I see. You know what I mean? It just gave me a little bit more faith. And when I had to go to my first meeting by myself, I remember standing outside the door, and I remember thinking to myself, yeah, I don't know how we're getting in here, bud. I just can't. Because this is how sick I was. People are going to look at me. They're going to stare at me, right? And I thought, dude, you were 70 pounds rocking and swaying on an avenue. You know what I mean? Thought you were really cute. I come to AA and my sick head says, don't go in there. People are going to look at you. They're going to look at you and they're going to say hi, right? I'm nuts. So I remember standing at the doorway and I remember saying, all right, this is when you're going to carry me. And I would take a deep breath and I'd walk in the door. I remember sitting there and my sponsor told me I had to get my hand up and I had to raise my hand, and I thought, raise my hand? I'm nuts, dude. These people are going to think I'm crazy. I don't know what I'm supposed to say, what I'm supposed to talk about. And I've learned that I don't have a filter. My sponsor has learned that I don't have a filter. That I say what's ever on my mind, whether it's appropriate or not. That was really bad. I'm better now that I've been sober, but in the beginning of sobriety, it was really bad. But people appreciated it because then they would say, thank God you said it because I think it and I'm afraid to say it, you know. But I would get my hand up. And the more my head told me that what I had to say wasn't important, the more I had to get my hand up because I thought to myself, this is about me saving me. It really had nothing to do with anybody else. Like, I was so selfish. It was like, dude, I'm going to save my own ass. I don't care about anybody else, right? I just didn't want to go back to where I came from, you know. And like, my journey in sobriety has, you know, gone up and down and all these different things. My youngest son, nobody ever guarantees you your children, right? And you're not guaranteed your children back or any of these things. So, you know, I have my oldest son who lives with me, who's, you know, was 8 years old at the time, and I learned how to be a mom to him. But I will tell you that I remember calling my friend Chuck up and saying to him, you know what, I got to do this homework deal, and this really sucks. Like, he hates homework, I hate homework, this is, you know, I'm complaining. And he said to me, shut your mouth. And I was so offended. I was like, who are you talking to, right, with attitude? And he said to me, do you remember where you came from? And I said, I do. And he said, do you know how many women will never make it there? Do you know how many people will never have an experience to be aggravated with their children? He said, so why don't you shut your mouth and thank God for that moment? And I was like, I had nothing to say. So like, when I do homework with my son or my mom, like anything that's going on in my life, like, that's the moment, like, I just go and pray. And I thank God for that. I have that moment because, you know, that's a blessing. That's a privileged problem at this point, right? But I remember my son, for the longest time, he would say to me, where are you going to pray? And I'd say, absolutely, because it was so much. Because I was struggling, and he hated homework, and I hated school. So he knew. My mom, he would say to my mom, she'd say, where's your mother at? My mom would say, where's your mother? And she's praying so she doesn't kill me again. Yeah, it was bad. He knew where I went, too. And I just learned. I was in a relationship in early sobriety, and the guy that I was with didn't stay sober, and I got to experience his 14-year-old daughter and my 8-year-old son talk about what it was like to have their parent disappear and how unloved they felt. Boy, any other time I would have ran out that door and I would have went and drank, you know, and I got on my knees, and I thank God for that moment, for me to hear the damage that I caused to my child, and that hurt, you know. I remember when my son was 4 years old, he said to me, if I was a really good boy, would you love me and just come home? And I said, I'm going to the store and I'll be right back, and I never did. Like, I never knew he internalized all that until that moment in sobriety. I got to hear him say it. It came out of his mouth, and he was 8 years old, and I just remember crying. And I remember somebody said, you better thank God for that moment. Like, don't you run, don't you be so selfish and run. And I didn't, and I held strong, and I thought, from this point on, my job, my responsibility to show up for this little boy. And I can never ever make up for all the things that I've done to him in his past, but like, I can show up and be the mom that I'm supposed to be, and not be so selfish. And you know, my youngest son, I left him at 3 months old. He met me at 4. He was 4 years old. And talk about sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly. Like, I did 2 years of supervised visits. Like, my first year was just with him, me and him. And, you know, it was a struggle, dude. Like, his dad got married, and how about he told me he had a new mom, I could go home. I was like, oh, I'll kill her. Like, it was bad. Like, my sponsor told me I had to pray for her, and I didn't want to do that either. But I learned that I had to pray for her, and then I got better. So the next time he said it to me, I said, that's because you're so special. You got 2 mommies. You know what I mean? Like, I learned, and I learned to get better with them things. And, like, now he's going to be 12 years old in November, you know, and it's not where I want it to be. It's exactly where it's supposed to be, because everything's on his terms. He's 12, you know. He didn't do anything. I'm the one that wasn't the mom I was supposed to be. But he knows if he calls me and he wants to stay at my house or whatever he wants to do, like, I'm all for it. I'll come scoop you up and we'll do whatever you want to do. And like, I just know that it was about being, you know, being available. And you know, I had 2 years of sobriety, and I got this amazing job that I absolutely loved. And you know, and it was like in the field, so it was great. And I went up with being in a right heart failure, and I had to have open heart surgery. And I remember, like, I had to do this will and all this other stuff. And I remember my mom and dad being really devastated. Like, I was like 36 years old or something, and my mom and dad were like so beside themselves. And I remember saying to my mom, you know, God's going to give me a surgeon. He's going to put me where I needs to be. And if the only blessing that I ever get out of this whole entire thing is that my children and my family got to see me sober for 2.5 years. Like, how much of a blessing is it? And if I don't make it out of that surgery, Mom, at least you know that I was sober for 2.5 years, and I did my best. Well, she wasn't a fan of it, but for me, I was okay, you know? And like they made me write my kids letters in case I didn't make it out of surgery. And like I cried, and I remember just really struggling with them letters. But then I also remembered, like, at least I get the opportunity, like, at least my kids got to see me sober. That's all I kept thinking. And like, I just prayed and just said, thy will be done, and I'm going to keep my hands out of it. And all this stress and aggravation, nothing's going to fix it. Like, God's going to do what it needs to be done. And, you know, my heart surgery went well. Like, I had to figure out, like, if I wasn't, I told my mom not to leave me on the breathing machines and stuff too long. You know, if anything happens, I don't want you down there with it. And she didn't like it. You know, I said, I'm going to get it in writing because you're not going to listen. You know, and my family was just like, you know, totally. But it brought my faith so much more closer. Like, AA showed up. Like, people in AA were at that hospital for me every day, 24 hours a day. Like, they just were there for me. They were there for me because they knew I was on medication. My sponsor and them showed up. Even when I went home, like, they came all the way. They were in Philly. They would come to Bucks County every day, make sure I made it to my doctor's appointments. You know, they did all these amazing things for me. And I just knew God put all them people in my life. And like, I don't know, in hindsight, looking back, when I look at my life and I look at my story, I just think, like, who does that? Like, who does that to themselves, right? Like, why do we do all this stuff to ourselves? And you know, and that's just my story. Like, people don't have to be homeless. You don't have to lose everything. Like, the only thing that kept me in the rooms at AA, it wasn't because you talked to me about God. It was because when somebody else talked about their pain, I understood that. Like, I understood somebody's pain. And when that connected with me and you told me that my pain would go away and that my life would get better, I just didn't want to hurt anymore. So I became really willing to do whatever you told me to do. And I did my change of thinking. What was I willing to do? When I didn't want to go to a meeting, I remember being in the snow and trudging to get one more. And all of a sudden, I'm in my nice, comfy house thinking, oh, I'm not going to that meeting because I got to go outside in the snow. I was homeless. I trudged everywhere I needed to be. You know what I mean? Like, I just knew that I had to keep changing my thinking. Like, would I do this for my disease? What am I willing to do for my sobriety? Like, am I willing to fight for my life? And I've been given this amazing gift, and we all have been given it. And people don't agree with, like, sayings and all this other stuff, but I'll tell you what, for me it was when somebody said in a room, many are chosen, but few will stay. And they said, you have been chosen. What are you willing to do to stay? And for me, it was like that honor. Do you know, like, my head just made that be into an honor, because I thought of how many people, you know, never make it here. How many some people just stay stuck in this disease and they never even know there's a solution. And then all of a sudden there's people that just die, you know, and they never get here either. And I just thought, I have this opportunity. Like, I have my 9 lives and all these other things that I've been through. And like, God and my guardian angels are like so exhausted from me. They're like, dude, we need a break, you know? So I just figured, like, the most amazing thing for me, I am so grateful that I'm an alcoholic, and people think that I'm crazy when I say that, but I think it's just really simple. Like, there is 12 steps, and there is a book that tells me how I'm supposed to live every single day. Dude, if there was a book on parenting, I would have rocked it, right? There's no book. This is the only book that I have that tells me how to live every single day, right? And I just think that's absolutely amazing that I got certain steps. And then when they tell me that in order for me to keep it, I got to give it away and help somebody else, I'm like, really? Like, there's no money, there's no nothing. I just sit down with another woman who's in pain, and I get to sit with her and watch her like this whole change go on, and it's the most amazing experience. And I just think that's what it's all about. It's not about anything else. It was just about me, you know, sitting down with somebody else. Somebody did it for me, and my job was to do it for somebody else. So I would just like to say thank you so much for having me. And my name is Gina, and I'm an alcoholic. Thanks for letting me share.
I'd like to thank Gina one more time for coming out to the stage. Just so you know, September is annual Women's Month, all women speakers all month, good lineup. Come and join us. Next week we have Chris Busen coming up from the Jersey Shore. He's got a powerful, funny message. It'll be a party, so please join us. We'll close with the Lord's Prayer if you'd like to join us in that. And we usually hit Perkins here.